Hi, I'm Bob Fox, the founders and directors of Wild at Heart. We're a wildlife rehabilitation center that specializes in the rescue, rehabilitation, and release of birds of prey. That's all hawks, owls, eagles, the occasional roadrunner, the odd water bird occasionally. And my wife and I started this back in the late 80s. We were volunteers at another center, saw a need for more than a 9 to 5, 5-day-a-week organization. And we'd gotten one little barn owl in that was pretty badly broken. We started working with it, and that started really fueling our passion for birds of prey. When I started, I had no idea what birds of prey were. Hawks, owls, had no real experience with them. But I came to love them and realized that their importance is immeasurable to our environment. So as time went on, my wife and I started, like I say, we thought we might see 40 or 50 birds in our first year, but 150 came into us, and we were off and running. We were living in a house in Phoenix, a regular backyard, and as we grew, we had to find another place to live and move. So we found this place here in Cave Creek, where we've been able to build a really nice facility, nice center that has now, on average, we'll see between 700 and 800 birds of prey every year come through here. We answer our phone 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, so the public can get help for an injured animal when it needs it. We don't believe in answering machines because you're playing phone tag all the time. And we're an all-volunteer group, so we have all the work that's done here: the food prep, the feeding, the cleaning, the transportation back and forth to the vets. That's all done by our volunteers. We do most of the treatments here, other than surgery and x-rays. We have veterinarians who donate their services that allows us to get help and healing done on a really good time basis. Oftentimes, unfortunately, a lot of the animals that come into us are so damaged that there's nothing that we can do, so we're kind of a halfway house. So we check them out, we look at them, look at their status, and if it's not going to be healthful for the bird, then we do humanely euthanize. That's one of the very sad points. And that sometimes is the best thing for the animal. At least they're not out in the middle of the cold, wet, dark heat, dying slowly. So at least we provide them a respite and a nice place to pass on. We've been doing rehab, like I say, since the late 80s, and the burrowing owl project was kind of an adjunct of that. We saw a need for not just releasing them out into the wild because they need that hole in the ground. They need to find a way to learn to live out there. So as we started building our sites, slowly but surely, we got a couple of calls from developers saying, hey, there's these little owls on our site. We need to get them out of here. And there was no real mechanism to do that. So in working with Fish and Wildlife Service, they said, yeah, just go ahead and you can relocate them. And we started getting more and more phone calls, and we finally had to actually codify the whole system. So now there's a special use permit that's required to remove burrowing owls from a construction site. The development community.
So my name is Greg Clark. I'm the burrowing owl habitat coordinator for Wild at Heart. One of the things that I do at Wild at Heart is to manage the relocation and artificial habitat program for burrowing owls. In order for us to do good, high-quality burrowing owl work, we need to have partnerships with landowners, land managers. We need to have large numbers of volunteers to put the habitat in, and we need to be able to construct proper habitat for relocation of the burrowing owls. So one of the most important partners for this that we have in southern Arizona is Tucson Electric Power. They've been with us since 2004, putting in burrowing owl habitat on their own land in Tucson, using their own equipment for constructing the artificial habitat, and they've paid for the materials that we've used to construct artificial burrows. Since the beginning, in around 2004, they have helped us expand to Marana, which is next to Tucson, and put in excavated trenches, paid for materials to put in artificial habitat, provided volunteers to build the habitat, and volunteers for constructing the release tents that we use to relocate the owls. That work continues today. We are expanding at the same site where they helped us before, once again excavating the property, providing volunteers to put in 100 artificial burrows, and helping us with relocation of the burrowing owls. We just couldn't do this kind of work without committed industrial and organizational partners. Sometimes it's a bank, it could be another wildlife organization, but every weekend, someplace in Arizona, from October through March, we're putting in habitat, relocating owls, and trying to stabilize the population.
One of the big issues that we find is that because of population growth, our habitats are being diminished rapidly. So it's very important that we start to stabilize and encourage habitat restoration, ecological conservation. With the way that our climate is changing, we're seeing a lot of disruption in migratory patterns. We're seeing a lot of wildlife moving into areas they haven't been into before. So we need to have a real understanding of what's going on. That's why for us the burrowing owl project is so important. We're able to remove healthy birds from a viable habitat to allow development to occur, but put them into areas that aren't going to be developed, where they're going to be safe and helpfully continue that population. Back in as late as the 1950s, there were millions of burrowing owls all throughout the West and through the Midwest. But as farming practices changed into large corporate farms using a lot of rodenticides, the habitats have been destroyed, and the barn owls, burrowing owls, and other species have been diminished, greatly. And the problem is, if you have, say, a nesting pair of barn owls, they'll produce offspring 2 or 3 times a year. That family unit can actually consume upwards of 25,000 rodents in a year. So they're really, really valuable to us as conservation issues. If we want to keep the rodent populations down, poison is not the way to do it, because poison goes right up the food chain. Anything that eats that dead rat is also going to be affected by that. So we really need to make sure that when we're working smart. The whole idea of conservation, protecting wetlands, protecting river systems, the land trusts that exist throughout this country do an incredibly valuable work, for our community, and not just for the wildlife, but it also provides recreation. It provides a way for people to get out and to become part of nature. One of the things that we have seen over the years is the fact that young people tend to be indoors and they're disconnected from nature and from wildlife. And by having areas that are protected, our national parks, our land trusts, areas like this where they can get out and become part of the environment and see what's actually out there, it does touch us in a certain way. Birds of prey are very important because of what they do as far as the rodents that they eat, the way that they help keep those populations down. Things like turkey vultures are incredibly valuable because they eat all the dead things in the landscape and help prevent disease from spreading. And they also speak to us. They speak to our heart and they speak to our soul. When we see them flying, that really it touches people in a certain way, and we need to have that. We need to have that sense of awe and wonder when we see wildlife.
Hey everybody, so here's what I have to say about Wild at Heart. I'm wild at heart, and I am loving this day that as Mrs. Green, I get to come up to a bird sanctuary, basically, in Cave Creek, Arizona. And here's what struck me the most. First of all, I was really excited to see burrowing owls and hawks and great horned owls. I love birds. I love it all. What blew me away is the devotion of these people. It's volunteers that are making the dream work. Hundreds of them that deliver the owls, that come and feed them, which I wouldn't like that part. I admit it. But to be able to see their work, to understand the depth and breadth of it, to contribute things to our ecosystems. All these animals, these birds, control rodent populations. So saving one helps keep the ecosystem in balance. and I was blown away. And it makes me really happy because there is so much goodness out there. And once again, I'm going to do this. TEP is a partner. They care about the burrowing owls, and they give money and materials and help the wheels on this very heavy bus go round and round. So I'm one happy camper, and I'm very grateful that I get to lead this life and walk this walk. Thanks for being a part of my world.